Why It Sucks to Be Yoriichi from Demon Slayer. Section 1. Introduction and Hook. In the world of Demon Slayer, there are many legends. Yoriichi Tsugikuni is not just another name. He is the name that towers above all others, the greatest demon slayer to ever live. The man who created sun breathing, the very source of all breathing techniques. The warrior who cornered Muzan Kibutsuji himself, the progenitor of demons, and came closer than anyone else in history to ending the nightmare of humanity. If you were to only hear the myths, you'd think his life was glorious, his legacy unmatched, his feats divine. Many fans even consider him the strongest character in the entire series, and with good reason. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Despite his strength, despite his greatness, despite being born with what looked like the ultimate gift, his life was nothing short of a curse. Yoriichi's story is one of the most tragic in anime. He was a man blessed with power, yet abandoned by happiness, betrayed by fate, and condemned to live in sorrow. His victories brought him no peace. His strength brought him no comfort. And his legacy, while eternal, only highlighted the isolation he endured. So today, we're going to peel back the layers of this legendary swordsman and reveal the brutal reality of his existence. By the end, you'll understand exactly why. It absolutely sucks to be Yoriichi from Demon Slayer. But first, let's go back to the very beginning, his birth. Yoriichi was born into the Tsugikuni family, a respected samurai household during the Sengoku era. From the moment he entered the world, he was different. He carried the Demon Slayer mark, the symbol that granted him supernatural strength and abilities far beyond ordinary humans. Sounds like a blessing, right? But to his parents, it was a curse. In that era, a child born with such a strange mark was considered abnormal, something to be feared. Yoriichi's father despised him, believing he was an ill omen. He was destined, in his father's eyes, to die young. Yoriichi's mother, however, saw him differently. She pitied him. To protect him, she gave him a special set of prayer beads and treated him with gentle love. Yet despite her kindness, Yoriichi grew up an outcast, even in his own family. His older twin brother, Michikatsu, who would later become the Upper Moon One, Kokushibo, was seen as the normal child, the pride of their clan. Yoriichi was hidden away, ignored, and treated as a burden. As a child, Yoriichi was quiet, humble, and innocent. He didn't complain. He didn't lash out. Instead, he observed the world with deep empathy. But fate was already weaving tragedy into his path. From the start, he was gifted with something terrifying, the ability to see the transparent world. To Yoriichi, the world wasn't just shapes and colors. He could literally see the flow of life, the muscles, blood, and organs inside living beings. It allowed him to predict movements, to read his opponents, to fight with absolute precision. Think about that for a moment. As a child, before even picking up a sword, he had already surpassed anything humanity had ever achieved. He was born perfect. But here's the irony. Perfection is isolating. When everyone else struggles, when everyone else has to climb the mountain, and you are already standing at the peak from birth, there is no one beside you. Yoriichi was a god among men, but a god who had no equals. And as we'll soon see, this perfection would become the root of his suffering. Section 2. The Burden of Perfection. The first glimpse of Yoriichi's terrifying strength came when he was just a child. One day, he picked up a sword for the first time. Without training, without hesitation, he demonstrated flawless swordsmanship. His strikes were so fast, so precise, that he surpassed even seasoned samurai in an instant. The adults around him were stunned. His brother Michikatsu, who had spent his entire life training, watched in disbelief as his younger twin casually outperformed him, and that was the beginning of the divide between them. For Michikatsu, Yoriichi was a nightmare. Imagine dedicating your whole life to mastering the sword, only to be overshadowed by someone who doesn't even try. Worse still, it was your own brother. Michikatsu was consumed by jealousy, and this resentment would one day twist him into a demon. But for Yoriichi, his talent was not a gift. It was a heavy chain. Because with every display of strength, he grew more isolated. He never bragged, never boasted, never showed arrogance. But his power separated him from others in a way that kindness could not bridge. Nobody could truly understand him. And then came the cruel twist of fate. Yoriichi fell in love. He met a gentle woman named Uta. For the first time in his life, he felt happiness. Away from the battles, away from the world's expectations, Yoriichi found peace in the simplicity of love and family. He dreamed of a quiet life with Uta. They were even expecting a child together. But destiny had other plans. One day, while Yoriichi was away, demons attacked his home. By the time he returned, it was too late. Uta and their unborn child had been slaughtered. This moment shattered Yoriichi's soul. Imagine being the most powerful warrior alive and still failing to protect the ones you loved most. That guilt never left him. It haunted him for the rest of his days. From that point forward, Yoriichi dedicated his existence to eradicating demons. His personal happiness was gone, his heart broken, his strength now a weapon for humanity, but also a curse that chained him to an endless battle. And yet, even with this resolve, his burden only grew heavier, because his perfection meant that the demon slayers around him looked up to him like a god. They expected him to succeed where others failed. They expected him to carry the weight of their war, and he did. But every battle, every victory, only reinforced his loneliness. Even his bond with Michikatsu, his twin, disintegrated. Michikatsu's jealousy evolved into hatred. Eventually, Michikatsu betrayed humanity and became a demon, the Upper Moon one, Kokushibo. For Yoriichi, this betrayal was the ultimate sting. His own brother, his blood, had chosen to become the very thing Yoriichi had sworn to destroy. And Yoriichi? He never stopped loving his brother. That was his tragedy. Even as enemies, even when Michikatsu tried to kill him, Yoriichi carried no hatred, only sorrow. So let's pause for a moment. What do we have here? A man born with impossible strength. A man who lost his wife and child in a single night. A man whose own brother turned into his enemy. A man worshipped by others, but never truly understood. This is the burden of perfection. Yoriichi was never allowed to be human. He was never allowed to be flawed. He was forced to live as an untouchable legend, a god in a world of mortals. And that is a very, very lonely place to be. But as tragic as this sounds, it only gets worse. Because Yoriichi's life wasn't just shaped by loneliness and loss. It was shaped by fate itself, fate that seemed determined to crush him at every turn. Section 3. The Curses of Fate. Fate is cruel, and no one embodies this truth more than Yoriichi Tsugikuni. The most defining moment of his battle against demons came when he finally confronted Muzan Kibutsuji. This was the encounter that could have changed everything. Yoriichi fought Muzan with such skill and precision that he utterly dominated him. For the first time in history, Muzan, the immortal progenitor of demons, felt fear. Yoriichi's sun-breathing strikes tore through him, leaving Muzan cornered, on the brink of destruction. Think about that. If Yoriichi had succeeded in that single battle, the entire Demon Slayer series as we know it would not exist. No Tanjiro, no Nezuko, no Hashira Corps. Demons would have ended centuries before. But fate intervened. Muzan, in a desperate gamble, split his body into hundreds of tiny fragments and escaped. Yoriichi had come within inches of victory, only to fail. Despite being the strongest man alive, he could not end the nightmare of demons. That failure haunted him. His comrades looked at him not as a hero, but as someone who had let humanity's greatest chance slip away. And though he never sought glory, the guilt weighed on him for the rest of his days. It didn't stop there. Later, Yoriichi would face his brother Michikatsu, now Kokushibo. Despite Michikatsu's transformation into a demon, despite centuries of honing his skills, he still could not match Yoriichi. Even in his old age, Yoriichi defeated Kokushibo with overwhelming ease. But here's the cruel part. Yoriichi didn't kill him. Not because he couldn't, but because he wouldn't. He still loved his brother, even after everything. His sword was mercy, not vengeance. And that mercy meant Kokushibo survived, continuing to wreak havoc as one of the most powerful demons in existence. So once again, Yoriichi's kindness became his curse. And then came the final blow of fate. Yoriichi lived far beyond the normal lifespan of marked demon slayers. Normally, those with the Demon Slayer mark died young, burning their life force in exchange for power. But Yoriichi was different. He lived on, carrying the weight of centuries. Imagine that for a moment. Watching everyone you know, everyone you fight beside die, while you continue to live. The loneliness of immortality without the joy of it. When Yoriichi finally passed, it wasn't in battle, and it wasn't in triumph. It was simply the quiet end of a man who had endured too much. He died not as a legend surrounded by admirers, but as an old warrior, alone. And yet, even in death, his suffering lingered. His legacy was twisted. The Demon Slayer Corps revered him as a myth, as a godlike figure, but they didn't understand the man behind the myth. Yoriichi's true story was lost in whispers and fragments. He was remembered for his strength, not his sorrow. This is the curse of fate, to be given everything, only to lose everything, to be born perfect, but condemned to a life of imperfection in every way that mattered. Section 4. Legacy and why it truly sucks to be him. So why does it suck to be Yoriichi? Let's lay it out clearly. He was born with impossible strength, but that strength isolated him. He found love, but it was ripped away from him in the cruelest way imaginable. He had a brother, but that brother betrayed humanity and became his greatest enemy. He faced Muzan and came within a hair of ending him, but failed. He lived far longer than any demon slayer, but only to carry centuries of grief. And worst of all, he never truly got to live. Yoriichi's life was a cycle of giving. He gave humanity sun breathing. He gave the Demon Slayer Corps hope. He gave the world its greatest chance at freedom. But in return, what did he receive? Loneliness, heartbreak, and the weight of failure. Even his death was bittersweet. Yoriichi's spirit lingered only in the memories of those who told his tale. To Tanjiro and the new generation, he was an inspiration. But inspiration cannot erase pain. His name lives on as a legend, but the man himself never found peace. And that's the ultimate tragedy. Strength is usually seen as freedom. The stronger you are, the more control you have over your destiny. But Yoriichi proves the opposite. His strength was a prison. It isolated him from his peers. It destroyed his family bonds. It chained him to a war he could never win. And that's why, despite being the greatest demon slayer of all time, despite his divine abilities, despite shaping history, it absolutely sucks to be Yoriichi Tsugikuni. Some legends are remembered for their victories, others for their sacrifices. Yoriichi was remembered for both. But behind the legend was only a man, cursed by fate and broken by sorrow, the strongest demon slayer who ever lived, and yet, perhaps, the loneliest. Outro. And that's it for today's deep dive into the tragedy of Yoriichi Tsugikuni. If you enjoyed this video and want more Demon Slayer content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Yoriichi is the most tragic character in anime history? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.